Now, before we even start, I better tell you that yesterday I put up a Robbie Lawler article for everyone. If you are not a Patreon boy and you hear this on the preview or something, go and read the Robbie Lawler article. It has, in fact, you don't even need to read it. If you're a dribbling, knuckle-dragging Valentina Shevchenko stan, you can go and click the play button at the top of it, and I'll read it to you, and you just have to look at the pictures. Big article called Robbie Lawler, Rebirth and Retirement, the Jack Slack Breakdown. Also, if you're a Patreon boy, there's an Alexandre Pantoja breakdown from last week, which I'm going to reference several times on this podcast. Just getting it all out up front, because you're probably unfamiliar with that incredible rate of work that I'm putting out. I'm like Muhammad Ali when he said, I want 15 referees because no man's going to keep the pace that I put on him. We'll lead with the main event. Why bury it? Alexander Volkanovski, Yair Rodriguez. It's a good fight. It's a good fight. I mean, the interim title is nonsense because the turnaround was exactly the same for Volkanovski. They fought on the same night, and Volkanovski's now fighting again against him. But interim titles, they're either pointless just to put a champion versus champion thing on the fight, or to put a belt on a fight that is headlining something, but they're embarrassed about it, so they try and put a belt on it, kind of like the BMF belt. Or they get used in situations where it's like massively underselling the fighter. So Renan Barão defended the interim title twice. You know, lots of people kind of point out his downfall, where Dominic Cruz stayed fairly decent for, you know, even till now. But Renan Barão earned that title. They should have just stripped Dominic Cruz and given him the belt. So we're quote-unquote unifying the title, but what we're really doing is working out who's the featherweight champion. And Volkanovski, obviously the prohibitive favourite, betting-wise, but I think anyone with eyes who has seen Yair Rodriguez's last couple of fights probably thinking, this one's a dangerous one. You know, one of the things is, like, if you're dealing with a knockout puncher, get through 10, 15 minutes. They're not going to be so dangerous. In fact, most really big punchers, the Rumble Johnsons and so on of the world, get through 1 or 2 rounds and they're not nearly as dangerous. Because a lot of those big punchers are guys who are big punchers because they put everything into one swing. There's not so many guys who are big punchers on every punch, who punch with good form and throw in combinations and so on. So those guys tend to slow down, the big hitters. The problem with people who throw up high kicks constantly is that the weight of a limb, you know, the weight of a leg, is enough to knock someone out pretty easily. And you don't need to throw it hard. I mean, Yair Rodriguez does throw it hard. He hurts people's forearms and shins when he kicks them. But, you know, there are so many examples of just like little high kicks coming up and slapping someone on the side of the head or on the neck and knocking them out. And it happens a lot in kickboxing. You know, I always think of Remy Bojanski picking him up from just like, he'd do it from a clinch. He'd push off the guy's face, or almost a clinch, because it was K1. You know, they didn't really clinch much. But he'd push off the guy's face, pick his leg up, and he'd keep it basically on the line of their body, all the way up from their thigh, up their arm, up their shoulder, and then turn it over just to get over their shoulder and kick him in the neck. And they'd flop down dead, basically. Well, limbs are heavy, but a leg is so much heavier than an arm. It's simple science. You know? It'll fuck you up. So if you're throwing your legs at people's heads constantly, yes, it takes a lot of effort to do it, but you don't have to hit them particularly well to cause them some real grief. The other thing about kicks, of course, is, you know, with round kicks especially, good round kicks to the head, it's a shin smashing in, not a fist. A fist won't go through a block. A fist might bounce off a block and catch you in the head, you know, behind the arm, in front of the arm, or so on, but it won't smash your arm into your head so hard that you get wobbled. A kick will do that. So the fact that Yair Rodriguez can and does throw up a dozen high kicks around for 5 rounds, always going to make him dangerous for anyone. I think the conditioning is the main thing that sets him out, and also just the toughness. The guy is hard as nails. He's been hit by some brilliant hitters. The Jeremy Stevens is the Josh Emmett's of the world, and he's just gone, no, I don't care. I was listening to the Heavy Hands boys, and they were saying, like, you know, Alexander Volkanovski's he's 34 going on 35, and the record of guys over 35 in divisions under middleweight in title fights is something like 2-20. It's not good. People age out fast in these lower divisions, and youth does matter. And when they were saying this, I was thinking about a story that I think, oh, it's Bill Wallace. Someone said, like, when did you decide you were going to retire from fighting? And he said he was fighting this Argentinian lad who was 20-something, and he was 38 or whatever. And the guy's taking lumps out of him, and he hits him with the left hook, which was Bill Wallace's best punch. Hits him with the left hook, turns his head around, the guy wobbles, the round ends, they go back to their corners. Bill Wallace said he was feeling like shit. And then his cornerman moved out of the way, and he saw that the other guy was already fine from the whole round and getting hit with his best punch and rocked. And he said at that point, like, he knew he was just too old, like, to be fighting people who are, like he had been in his physical prime. Now, I don't think, maybe we get a precipitous drop-off from Volkanovski as he turns 34, 35, but that's more the point that, like, young people can take a kicking and keep on ticking. Yeah, I think he's just turned 30, but, like, yeah, you can watch him take these punches, and you go, damn, not only does he have a chin, but, like, even if he gets hurt, he's just back to it quickly. There's a lot about Yair Rodriguez that is, it's written off as raw athleticism because he does a lot of things that aren't smart, but gets away with them. Like, I watched him and Alex Caceres throw spinning kicks for 5 rounds at elevation in Mexico City. And people were like, wow, what an amazing fight. And I was like, that's the worst fight I've ever seen from a tactical perspective. It was horrible. Because they were spinning from miles out, nowhere near each other and stuff. And Yair did a lot of that back in the day. Just stuff that made no sense. Leaping in with the side kick to the knee, and then faking the leaping side kick to the knee and jumping into a wheel kick. The leaping side kick to the knee, if you keep showing it like hard as you can, the guy's going to move back every time you lift your knee up. And what you got to do is, like Lando Venata, just poke them in the knee with your side kick. Don't even pick it up. And then they'll end up sort of standing there or checking, and you hit him with a wheel kick. But he used to do tons of stuff like that from miles out. But the thing was that, yeah, he did it at elevation. He threw like 200 strikes, most of them spinning kicks, and he didn't get tired. That's what makes him uniquely scary, more than anything to me. The combination of the weird kicks, powerful kicks, but weird kicks, and the ability to throw them for 5 rounds. The opposite end of that spectrum is like Abus Magomedov, really good kicker, powerful kicker, front kicks, round kicks, high kicks, but gasses almost immediately, and not just in that Sean Strickland fight. People were saying like, oh, you're being too harsh on him. What about adrenaline dump? First UFC main event, blah, blah, blah. He'd gassed out in PFL several times at that point. He did some gassed ass wrestling against Sadabusi. He doesn't like striking past the first round because he gets tired. Partly because he's a kicker and he throws up kicks constantly. It's like Krylov, Nikita Krylov, really good kicker for that weight and up at heavyweight at one point, but can't do it nearly as much as someone like Yair Rodriguez. Because everyone who is a good kicker is operating on that, like, but I can't swing my legs up constantly. That's ridiculous. And Yair Rodriguez said, why not? I can, and I'm ridiculous. And I always thought, but he throws lots of kicks and then he tries to run out, so he'll get caught in the cage and he'll have trouble when guys try and wrestle him there and stuff. And he did have trouble with Frankie Edgar, but then, most recently he fought Max Holloway. And he made Max Holloway panic wrestle. Max Holloway never takes anyone down. He took Brian Ortega down once as like a flex, but he doesn't take anyone down. And he was having to wrestle against Yair Rodriguez. And I know we're still in this stage where we're pretending that like Max Holloway hasn't lost a step and Volkanovski is just that much better, and then Max Holloway is that much better than the whole division. But I watched Max Holloway not be that much better than Yair Rodriguez. And then the Emmett fight was just, that blew my tits off. He looked absolutely lethal in that fight. I think he was helped by the kind of fighter that Emmett is. It's just jabs and overhands and not a lot else. But still, played him like a fiddle. And even then, for the last 10 years, every time some striker comes up and people go, he's so good on his back, he doesn't even care if you take him down. I go, but he does actually. Like at some point he's going to care. At some point he's going to lose a fight because of it, and he's going to care. And that happened to Yair Rodriguez against Frankie Edgar. But he still submitted his last 2 opponents. So it's, the Ortega one is technically a shoulder injury, but if you get your shoulder pulled out while trying to escape an armbar that the guy is applying, that's basically the same. The intention was to fuck you up so that you couldn't continue fighting with a joint lock, and it happened. If I'm trying to heel hook you and you spaz out and straighten your leg so hard that you hyperextend your knee, I've got the same result. So yeah, the thing is that like he makes bad decisions tactically, and they don't seem to matter a lot of the time. The Edgar fight, he did lose because of bad tactical decisions. He got taken down, he got pushed to the fence. He tried to play guard off the fence because he doesn't care if you take him down. But Frankie Edgar stacked him up, high hips, as Craig Jones was shouting at Alex Volkanovski against Ortega. But yeah, he stacked him up against the fence, pushed his head against the fence, stood up in his guard, and dropped punches on him. And the thing about that is that, if you put someone's head against the fence, it makes it very hard for them to move and create upper body attacks anyway. If you stack them, so you stand up over them, they've got even less chance, because the moment they open their legs, their hips fall off you because of gravity, and they can't attack the upper body. And the other thing that Frankie Edgar was doing was that he'd put his own forehead against the cage and punch down on him, which means that even if he could swing up an armbar, his leg wouldn't get over his head, or his leg wouldn't get over Edgar's head. We were talking about some interesting stacking stuff in the Pantoja article, actually, so I'll get back to that later. But it's important to talk about because Volkanovski, one of his paths to victory in this fight is cage wrestling, because he was a very good cage wrestler in his UFC career until about the Mendes fight, when he starts kickboxing all the time. I mean, he won some regional kickboxing championship in Australia, but a lot of what he was doing in his early UFC run was cage wrestling. And he fought Jeremy Kennedy, who is a good fighter in Bellator now, actually, back in 2018. And Jeremy Kennedy had a rough time, man, because he fought in the UFC 4 times. He went 3-1. He beat Alex Ricci, Ronnie Jason, and Kyle Bochniak. And then he lost to Volkanovski. And then he was out. Good, easily good enough fighter to stay in the UFC. He recently beat Pedro Carvalho, and he beat Aaron Pico by shoulder injury, but he was doing really well in that fight too. He's a really good fighter. But yeah, Volkanovski kept taking him down against the fence in closed guard and stacking him. And what Kennedy would do was just open his legs and let Volkanovski step over one into half guard, so that he could come up on a single leg and make something happen. Staying in a full guard, with the guy between both your legs, or both the guy's legs between your legs, with your head against the fence, is disastrous. But people still try it. Like Brian Ortega will absolutely try and fight from there. Check out the Pantoja article, because he does a really interesting entry to a mutual Ashigarami, whatever you want to call it, mutual leg entanglement. From there, he just drops one leg below the opponent, kicks it through, and brings it up over the top to reap their leg. And it's a weird one, because his other leg is out and in danger from their leg attacks. But it's the difference between grappling and MMA. You can throw up, in MMA, grappling on the bottom, you just want to start attacking. You're not going to get the best position to start attacking from. You just start attacking. But sorry, we'll get into that in a minute with Pantoja versus Moreno. But so that's an interesting thing. I want to see Volkanovski push him to the fence, take him down, and then push him to the fence, and see if Yair Rodriguez will just play guard, trying to throw things up. Because if you put him there, it makes it very hard for him to do. Ortega, he caught near the fence, and Emmett, he caught fairly near the fence, but he wasn't smushed into the fence, and that's what makes the difference. But yeah, the kicking game is going to be a nightmare for Volkanovski to work his way around, because not only is it the kicking game, but the kicking game opens up the punching game. Especially when you're a shorter man against a good kicker, you've got the problem of them kicking you in the body, which makes you bring your elbows down, and then that weakens your guard up top. Because even if your forearms are still covering your head, it's the end of the lever now. In an ideal world, a guy's going to kick you in the head. You block them nice and low on your forearm, and you don't feel it at all. But if they're kicking you in the body all the time, those elbows are going to start coming into your body, and then they're kicking the wrist when they start trying to kick the head. And kicking people in the wrist, 1, you can break their wrist. 2, Skarbowski, in that brilliant instruction I'm always talking about, but Skarbowski always said, left high kick, really good weapon, because if you kick them in the wrist, you can off-balance them. You could just knock them slightly out of their stance and then follow with punches afterwards. But the other thing is, if you kick them in the wrist, you can still kick them in the neck through their wrist or over their wrist. You push their wrist in with your kick, and then the rest of your shin or foot finds their neck. On the open side particularly, watch for Yair to switch to southpaw when Volkanovski's orthodox, or go orthodox when Volkanovski's southpaw. And Volkanovski can and will switch, but he does much prefer orthodox. Yair does switch constantly and tends to do his best work off whatever is the open stance. So southpaw against orthodox fighters, orthodox against southpaw fighters. Because then his rear leg body kick is only contending with their rear arm. He also does a beautiful thing where he throws a kick, some kind of kick to freak him out, bounces back in his stance, and then kicks as they step in to pursue him. That's an example of a taekwondo tactic being operated at high levels of MMA. Slide back and round kick is something you see all the time in taekwondo. Guys, that's someone throws a spinning kick or something like that. You slide back and you throw like a short round kick just to their body. You just hop into it. And it's so effective. And go watch Yair do that to Emmett. That's one of the ones that really hurts him. But yes, the body kicks and the high kicks are going to be a real problem for Volkanovski. One, because he's short, and it's going to be hard to get inside of him. Even to punish. If you block a good kick against someone your own height and size, you can step in and start hitting them afterwards. The bigger the size disparity in terms of height and length, the harder that is to do. And then, as I said, the kicks set up the punches, because if you throw really hard kicks at people's arms, forearms, head, and body, they have to stand strong for it. They have to hold fast, as that guy's tattoos say in Master and Commander. What a fantastic film. You have to hold fast against kicks, and that makes you rigid for when punches come afterwards. So if you watch, a lot of what Yair does is just 1-2s, and he's got pretty good lately at throwing the 1-2 and then ducking out the side door or stepping off to the lead side. So he'll throw his southpaw 1-2 and he'll step off to his right, or he'll throw his orthodox 1-2 and he'll step off to his left. But yeah, just 1-2s. It's the number one combination in fighting, and it has been for over 100 years, 200 almost. Yeah, actually, it's been around since the 1600s, so it's pretty good. And it will be for the next 300-400 years. The 1-2 is just naturally how you're going to do your best hitting. It's the best combination. And if you can get a guy standing still for it, that's half the trick. We were talking last week about how, we were talking about after the Topuria fight, but how Roberto Duran stood people still by jabbing and dipping and throwing body shots and things to get them expecting that. And then he'd jab and wouldn't dip, wouldn't disappear. He'd just throw the right hand afterwards, and they'd be stood there for it. Yair Rodriguez has that because of his weird kicks. You watch him throw all these weird kicks, and then it's the 1-2s that land. Against people who are supposed to be much better boxers than him. I think the other thing that concerns me is that a lot of Volkanovski's stuff against Holloway did better when he was kicking in the second fight, when he was Muay Thai Max, when he cut the shorts all the way up to the hip line. That's when you know someone's a kicker. But Holloway did better when he was kicking, and that set up his punches. And it also meant that Volkanovski started rushing to close the distance even more. In the first fight, if you watch, when Holloway goes southpaw, that was his answer to the low kicking. In southpaw, Volkanovski starts stepping and shifting through on this very long stepping right hook. He steps through the southpaw and throws the right hook. And it's a great technique, but there's no way around it. He has to run through the space. And that's true of a lot of his techniques. He has to cover distance, so he really has to commit to going forward and pushing through space. And so then in the second fight, Max Holloway was able to hit him with counter uppercuts and counter elbows. Uppercuts especially, that'll catch him on that shift. And if he starts ducking down, trying to take kicks and run in afterwards, the uppercut can be a real problem. But it was mainly just intercepting him as he came in, get him running over big distances, and hurt him for it. A lot of what Volkanovski is able to do is by using counter low kicks, so getting the guy as he's jabbing and so on, or the step-up inside low kick, read Advanced Striking 2.0, Alex Volkanovski, which is open to everyone on my website. The step-up inside low kick, he uses that to play a game of footsie and then start entering, covering not necessarily more distance than he would, but tricking people into letting him cover the distance by making them check, making them deal with these kicks, or just picking their leg up with the kick. Or taking a big T step to jab. So he brings his right leg up behind, like heel to heel with his left in a T, as if he's going to throw an inside low kick, and then he just jabs off that. He steps really far, like a fencer's lunge. Go read Advanced Striking 2.0. It's all in there. So yeah, closing the distance for him is a big deal. So if Yair can put him on the end of the kicks and then either throw 1-2s while he's standing there trying to block, or hammer him with counters coming in. So the knees is a big one. Elbows is a big one. Maybe not spinning back elbows against a guy who wants to get your back and control you and throw you around like a wrestler. Don't be doing that. But intercepting elbows is a huge one. Don't really see Yair uppercut too much. Max really trained that shot for that fight. He hadn't thrown an awful lot of uppercuts in his career up to that point that I can remember, but his uppercut was a real nice shot against Volkanovski there. I wouldn't expect that from Yair because his boxing is mainly flappy hands. So that's what we've got to worry about for Volkanovski / what we're looking for from Yair. Throw the kicks, try and hurt him with the double attack, the open side, body kick, head kick. Poke at him with the side kicks to the knee and so on, because you want to keep him out of his very good low kicking game. And hammer him with 1-2s when he's bracing for things, hit him with counter punches and counter knees and counter elbows when he tries to close on his own terms. Obviously, circling and staying off the fence is important. He's doing a bit more of that nowadays, circling off after his attacks, which does impress me. But, the ease with which Max Holloway got him off his feet makes me worry for him. And his comfort playing guard when he maybe shouldn't necessarily do it. There's the Charles Oliveira's who recognize what they need to be doing with their guard at any particular time and place in the cage. And then there's guys like him and that guy who was trained by Davi Ramos the other day, got knocked out by Onama, who I get the sense are like dangerous from their back, but are obsessed with being dangerous from their back and don't really consider where they are in the cage and what they should be doing at this time in the fight. For Volkanovski, I think most of us are hoping he brings his wrestling to Lever, the cage wrestling from the old days. He did some really good work hitting people off the cage. If you push someone to the fence with underhooks and then you bring your elbows back to you and you let them come off your underhooks, you can chin them on the way out. So he did a great one against Mizuto Hirota, a stepping right hook, catching him along the cage, which was lovely. Spinning back elbows, he landed a couple of two in that fight and then a couple of others. But yeah, getting people to the fence and then opening up, that's a great option. Got a great inside trip, which despite being something where you are using your leg to catch the other guy's leg, actually works pretty well for shorter men. Randy Couture used to do it to big, giant heavyweights. And Pitbull, Patricio Freire, does it to some guys who have enormous amounts of height on him. He's 5'6" or something like that, and he's doing it to guys who are like 5'11". And it's the underhook one. You get the underhook along the fence, you pull the guy so that he steps, and you reap the leg as like a sweep, like a judo-style foot sweep as they're putting it down, not the dive through their legs and go to your knees and push them to the floor sort of inside trip. Not the Henry Cejudo out in the open over-under clinch one. So that could work well. There's always the chance that he just pushes him to the fence and knees his knee or knees his thigh like he did against Aldo for one round. In the open, I think getting to low kicking with Yair is a great idea. I heard the Heavy Hands boys say, think of Edson Barbosa, Justin Gaethje. Edson Barbosa has the kicking advantage so often that people don't kick against him. And this is something that I've said for years. I used to say low kick with Edson Barbosa, low kick with Donald Cerrone, people like that. And people would go, you can't low kick with him. He's a great low kicker. And if you apply that to anything else, think of all the guys who have a great right hand but get knocked out by right hands, great left hook, get knocked out by left hooks, great double leg but can't stop a double leg. Yes, the skill of wrestling is one thing. The skill of kickboxing is one thing. But within that, there are elements. And you can be a great low kicker who doesn't like low kicks coming back at them. You can be a great low kicker, and when the guy starts kicking back, you have to start checking, and then you're not in your stance to low kick as easily as you were. Low kicking, I've always said it, but Dan Henderson had so much success with a low kick that was the ugliest low kick you've ever seen. His fundamentals were terrible because he had zero flexibility. He was made of wood. He was 100 years old. But his low kick did more for him than a lot of really smooth kickboxers out there in MMA who throw dozens of low kicks around. It's how you use it. Volkanovski's low kicking has always been a really great way to punish people for trying to jab him, which is a great one because he fights so many longer guys. He slides back and throws the right low kick basically on the spot. He doesn't really put his weight into it. He just throws the leg as the guy's stepping towards him. So he buckles their knee in, which is, watch the first Max Holloway fight. He basically changed the whole fight with a couple of those. And then the second Holloway fight, Holloway is really short stance and careful about that stuff. And in the third Holloway fight, Holloway's getting chinned, so he goes back to his boxing stance. And then the kicks, the last 2 rounds of the third Holloway fight are back to the first Holloway fight again, because Holloway goes back to what he's most comfortable doing. But yes, if you can get Yair standing on one leg to check things, for shorter fighters, if you can low kick, yes, the lead leg is the nearest target, which we said with that guy, the giant guy, 6'2", for super leg, who's 5'6". But was it super leg? Can't remember. The other week, some giant skinny guy fought a Thai, and he just put his lead leg out there, knowing that it was the nearest target. So the guy was going to swing a kick at it, and then he'd pull it back and throw a high kick. So there's an element of that. But if you can get the guy picking his leg up to check, or even stepping back, you can use that reaction to start building into your punching. Checks are best because if the guy checks, you then just put your foot down outside his and you start punching from the opposite stance. That works great. Or you fake and you throw like a Superman punch, or you fake and you step in with a 1-2. There's loads of stuff you can do, but getting the guy to react to the low kicks is a great means of getting in. And that's one of the reasons that Volkanovski, despite being shorter than most of his opponents, has been able to get in on them. I know a lot of people point to his reach because Holloway's got like a weirdly short reach for his height, and Volkanovski had a slightly longer reach, but Volkanovski was like 4 inches shorter. So you go like, no, that's not how it works. Typically, if you're punching up, you lose a load of reach, or you effectively lose reach, for reasons that we talked about dozens of times on this podcast before. But I think anything you can do with the, because Yair does tend to jump and run when people come into him, anything you can do with the floating in behind the lead knee, which he does a lot, especially when guys try to counter low kick him. He likes to pick up the lead leg and do, I suppose it's a fake teep, but he very rarely teeps. He picks up the lead leg and he just glides in behind it. And the double jab, that would be nice to see too. Or you can, any combination of those. So like pick up the lead knee and come in with the jab behind it, pick up the lead knee and fake the jab and throw the jab again behind it. Those sort of things that chew up space. The fake inside low kick. If you see that all the Yair is going to do is run, bring up your back leg as if to the inside low kick and then step forward. Just chew up space. Because any time that Yair hits the fence, life gets a lot better for Volkanovski. Provided he doesn't eat like a jumping knee from Yair as he hits the fence. It'd be interesting to see someone who can operate some kick catches against Yair Rodriguez, because yes, the spinning stuff is distracting, but most of his best work is done with round kicks from the open stance. And you don't see an awful lot of good kick catching and I call them parries, but I've heard, who was it? Some other analyst that I respect was calling it a pass-through. But when you catch the kick on your arms, 2 arms, and then you use your cross arm to scoop it across and pass it across the body, like Masvidal versus Donald Cerrone, that's what I call a kick parry. But anyone who could operate those against Yair Rodriguez would have been interesting to see. There's a lot of guys who just didn't do that at all against him. It's kind of like when Frankie Edgar started catching all of Benson Henderson's kicks, and he didn't really do much with it, but we'd never really seen people catching that many kicks. And I remember Rogan being like, yeah, you don't see that a lot. I don't know why. But Volkanovski, training with a good kickboxing gym. I mean, Israel Adesanya is one of the best at catching kicks in MMA. Typically on the body, on his body, like he did against Paulo Costa. But if you could do like a 2 hands, get it across kind of catch. The Saenchai catch, which is fantastic. I mean, I call it the Saenchai catch because he's famous for it. But Kung Lee used to do it in Saenchai and so on. That's where, like, if the guy throws a left high kick at you, whether he's in an orthodox stance or a southpaw stance, but he throws a left high kick at you, you take it on your right forearm. Normally, like, if you want to belt and braces it, you bring your left hand across and you take it on both forearms, and that's when you can bring your left hand down and parry the leg across afterwards in the aftermath. What Saenchai used to do is take the whole kick on his right forearm and scoop underneath with his left hand, so that he was basically like catching, it was kind of like he was uppercutting and missing the leg. So the leg ended up sandwiched between the back of his right arm and the inside of his left forearm, and then he'd pull it down and scoop it across himself and start hitting dumps and things. I think that'd be a really powerful technique to use against Yair Rodriguez, but you don't see it much in MMA, and it also means that you have to be strong enough absorbing kicks, familiar with it, that you can just stand up to it with one arm blocking and catch it on your and scoop under to catch it. You can't block with 2 hands, which is a real problem when you're dealing with a hard kicker in MMA. In MMA, if you're dealing with someone who's got a skill that's like unique in MMA, like a very hard kicker, it's best to just do the safest thing against them and train for that. Like Fedor against Krokop. He was dealing with the left round kick to the body and the head. So what he did was he just practiced doing like the long barrier, like hands really tight, high. So he'd go into a really high check with his right leg, and his right forearm would be angled towards the top of his head. And so if he got kicked in the arm, it glided over his head. And if he got kicked in the body, it hit his shin. And he wouldn't get kicked in the leg because his leg wasn't there. But it was a real, like, belt and braces, as I always call it, but over-commitment to the defense. And then he started countering off that. So it's always best to do that sort of thing rather than something like the Saenchai thing, which is you've got to have the experience. And that's part of what happens in MMA. When people say, like, when's MMA boxing going to catch up to boxing? When's MMA grappling going to catch up to grappling? There's no substitute. Like, I mean, we talk about technique and tactics a lot, but there is no substitute for the time doing something, and you just can't get it. Saenchai has hundreds of fights and thousands of rounds absorbing kicks on his arms. He's comfortable doing it. Volkanovski has, dozens maybe, because he also has to do all this other shit. But yeah, kick catches would be great to see because you can turn that into back exposure. You can turn that into getting the body lock. You can turn that into a single leg. You can turn that into a double leg if you just keep the leg and you run through. You can turn that into striking. So anything like that. I would really like to see counter kicks specifically. But the wonderful thing about Yair's weird striking with the spin kicks and side kicks and things like that, they are very rarely as effective as the round kicks to the body and the head, which are his money winners. They are what gets it done. But by doing all that other weird shit, it really throws off people trying to read you and counter. So yeah, talked about that for half an hour now, sorry. But what I'm saying is this is a hard fight for Volkanovski in my eyes. You know, Max Holloway was a better rounded fighter in many senses, but he didn't use it. He wasn't trying to take Volkanovski down. He was just trying to outstrike him. And what he could do was adjust what he did striking-wise. So from the first fight to the second fight, he made adjustments and they really helped him. And then he tried to adjust mid third fight, but was just, adjusted back to what he was doing in the first fight and ended up losing. But Yair Rodriguez is not nearly that adaptable. And I don't think people would consider him as rounded a fighter. But the skills that he does bring are a real threat. Because Max Holloway gave Volkanovski a lot of trouble with a more kicking-centric game plan to begin with. And that was him as a jack of all trades going, messing with the sliders, as I always call it. Because I'm always looking at my fucking Rode mixer thing here. But he's just messing around with the sliders going, maybe we have a little bit more kicking, a little bit less punching, a little bit more of this, a little bit less of that. Whereas Yair Rodriguez, his kicking baseline is always up as high as possible, and everything else is an afterthought. He can't move the sliders; they've been locked in place with a post-it note saying "Do not touch" from the technician. But that could be more dangerous, and I think it probably is. I wouldn't at all be surprised if Volkanovski lost this one. I think you'd be daft to. I mean, I've counted out Yair Rodriguez a lot, but between his athleticism, his growth as a fighter tactically and technically hasn't been what I like, but it is undeniably there. The throwing the 1-2s and moving offline afterwards, the moving his head afterwards, stuff like that. He has gotten much better. Being in the appropriate range to throw appropriate kicks, focusing his game around things that actually work rather than just flash. He's undeniably getting better, even if it's like, a curmudgeonly old fuck like me can't appreciate specifically what he does and would like him to do other things. But then would I like him to do other things? If you take away the things that make someone weird, are you just making a worse textbook fighter when you could have the best Yair Rodriguez or Prince Nazim? Anyway, that's that fight in the bag. I'm just saying, would not be at all surprised if Yair Rodriguez wins this one. Obviously, the odds are against him because Volkanovski is the best in the world at this weight class. He obliterated Max Holloway the third time, and also I think that's partly because of Max Holloway's fall off. I suspected that when he fought Yair Rodriguez too. But the thing with Islam Makhachev was incredible. To have the most competitive fight with Islam Makhachev when you are a weight class lighter is incredible. And arguably, if we're doing pound for pound the way that makes sense, that would make him the pound for pound number one in the world. Or John Jones, I suppose, because he went up a weight class as well. But he is a heavyweight now. He hasn't gone back down to defend the light heavyweight title. And of course, there is always that Roy Jones thing. Because people don't win 2 belts and then come back down and defend the first belt. Roy Jones famously went up to win the heavyweight belt against John the Boring Man Ruiz. Came back down and got chinned by Antonio Tarver almost immediately. But anyway, sorry, enough about that fight. Let's talk about the rest of this card because there's actually some really good stuff on here. And I'm always moaning that there isn't enough good stuff on these UFC cards. So, co-main event, Brandon Moreno versus Alexandre Pantoja.